Let's podcast alongside Joe Giglio. I'm Joe Ovias inside Eford Studios, downtown Raleigh. Thanks to Empire Properties and thanks to Copiers Plus. Check them out online at copiers-plus.com. I've joked about it before. I'm actually starting to do it myself. This sounds like a 2024 problem, but don't let print management, document management costs eat into your budget in 2024. Get on it now. Contact copiers-plus.com. Get that assessment and see where you can save money for your small to medium-sized business.
Saving money is good in any year or any month. So go to copiers-plus.com.
So let's talk about the scene at Reynolds Coliseum last night. It was
very eventful.
It was. Look, it's a heritage game. You know, say what you want about whether this game has lost a little bit of its luster over the years. It's fine, whatever. But last night was a pretty cool night because you do the David Thompson statue unveiling. I guess they couldn't get Maryland for David Thompson as the opponent, so they got the next best thing, Joe. Maryland Eastern Shore. Cool. Peyton Wilson gets surprised with the Butkus Award. That's pretty nice. Saw the statement, or at least the release from the ACC today as the nation's best linebacker. Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, there was some disappointment there when everybody went to Charlotte. They had the whole crew there, his family and Dave and Tony Gibson and everybody, only for some random safety from Notre Dame to win the award. And it was like,
right. That's the
Nagurski.
It was the Nagurski Award.
Huh?
Yeah.
Why? Did you watch college football this year?
I know.
So I think it was nice. They had the captains out, Brendan Armstrong. They had this great ovation for all of the players. Keon Lassane, Davin Van, they were all there. And then it was like, oh, yeah, by the way, Peyton Wilson's a finalist for the Butkus Award. And then he goes, well, he's not a finalist anymore. And out comes
he's a winner.
David Zorn with the trophy. So that was
really
a nice
cool
moment.
So it was a pretty cool night overall. But what has at least state basketball fans buzzing from last night was the fact that MJ Rice played. Now, I'm going to be honest. I had forgotten about MJ Rice. It's just one of those things. I knew that in the offseason, he was considered a big acquisition for Kevin Keatts in the remaking of the roster. And when you are in this portal era, to get a guy from here, from Durham, from Kansas, big deal. But then there was some question about, was he on the roster? Was he not on the roster? I know he had released a statement. MJ Rice had released a statement about taking some time away from the team. I think at some point last week he came back to the team, but no real word if he was going to play. So there was a surprise that he was on the court last night and looked pretty good.
So I went to the game, took my family, bought tickets, sat upstairs, enjoyed it. And all the stuff's going on with Peyton Wilson. And I know Ethan Hyman so well. He follows Peyton Wilson out into the hallway because he loves to get those behind the scenes pictures. All of a sudden I see number 3 come on the floor and Jackson goes to me, who's that? And I go, oh, is that the kid from NCAA? Like, did they finally get a waiver? Because the transfer from Gonzaga got a waiver at Wake Forest.
Yes.
The NCAA is doing the catch-up thing where they're giving guys waivers and all this other stuff.
It's not like the season snuck up on them or anything.
They're doing that thing right now where they kind of quietly, let everybody have that second time transfer. So I was like, oh, maybe it's the guard from North Carolina A&T. And then I was like, I go, no, that kid's pretty big. And then Jackson goes, oh, that's it says Rice. I go, that's MJ Rice. I said, I didn't think we were going to see him this year. For sure, going through some serious stuff this offseason, this summer. And it truly is a little bit of a Christmas miracle that you were looking for from Aaron Rodgers. And the thing about MJ Rice, and I don't know, the quality of player that he will be and what kind of shape he's in and all those other things, he is athletic as all get out.
Yeah. And
that's the kind of player you can't, we talked about, you lose a player in early and you're like, oh, you can't replace that guy. No, you add that. That's like a free agent signing right there. That was amazing to see him come out there. I don't know what they'll be able to do with him, how fast they can get off the speed.
Right.
Super athletic. We'll see what he can pick up. That was a big buzz for them, but the way that they played, I was like, this is not honoring David Thompson, guys. You're playing poorly. You're missing shots. There should be juice in this building.
Yeah.
Every time I've seen them play, even no matter who the opponent is, every time I've seen NC State play the Heritage game at Reynolds, there's been juice. They've been excited. They don't care who the opponent is. They come out and they put it on them. Now, the final score is deceptive because it wasn't that. But they kept missing free throws too. And I'm just sitting here going, what on earth is happening right now? You're playing like crap. So to have Rice have the dunk at the end, and they scored 56 points in the second half. That's great. State's in a situation where they're going to need to beat Tennessee in a couple weeks.
Yes,
they're going to need to put that in their back pocket because they had BYU, and to lose the BYU card, right? You have to find another. Rice could definitely help them on that front if they can get him up to speed. Only played 10 minutes last night. It's probably about all he could handle. Again, UMass is not a great team. They fought. I like the way that they played in the first 30 minutes of that basketball game. Obviously, got away from them at the end. But no, this would be huge for State to have a player of that talent. Kevin, MJ was a McDonald's All-American and high-level recruit. And I remember when he added Sasha Killier-Jones, I said to him, "What the hell you want with this guy?" And he goes, "He's talented. Whatever you think of him,
he's talented.
Whatever he did at Kentucky, he's still a big 6'10" talented player." And when I had asked him this summer about Rice, and he goes, "He's a talented player. He's an athletic. He's super athletic." And we've seen the template with Kevin, with a CJ Bryce, with a Torrin Dorn, a guy who could defend the four, stretch the floor, and do a little bit of be super athletic and be a matchup problem. When you have a DJ Burns, it's important to have a little bit more like that to offset some of that unathletic stuff. So this is a true wild card for them. I don't think they were counting on him. I think there were a lot of times during the summer where they just flat out knew that it would be a challenge to get him on the floor. So great strides for him, for MJ to be out there and get out there and help. And you just want the best for a player in that situation.
So we go from vibes immaculate to more chaotic vibes. And I guess the Carolina Hurricanes decided that causing chaos or create chaos or whatever their sloganeering is for the season is going to be the aesthetic they truly take. Because if you look at the Carolina Hurricanes schedule and results so far this season, there is no consistency whatsoever. Win, loss, couple wins, couple losses, 3 wins, couple more losses, win, loss, 2 losses in a row now. But losses that, the classic Rod Brindamore, the Winnipeg game, they lose 2-1, but they like the way that they played. I mean, you can kind of, if Rod Brindamore was a playlist, there are certain hits on there that he will go to when he wants to, when talking about the results of the game. And I'm not saying it's a knock. You play 82 times, you're only going to say certain things so many times, right?
I think it's clear, though, at this point, and you might not agree with me, but I think it's clear at this point, they have a goalie problem.
I don't think it's a goalie problem.
Well, in this sense, here's where they have a goalie problem.
Okay.
If you're trying to win the Stanley Cup, which is their stated goal, I thought Freddie Anderson showed you last year what he did in the playoffs, showed you he could be good enough to help you win the Stanley Cup. I don't think Ranta is just now a backup.
Yeah.
He's not anything more than that. He shouldn't be playing any more than 20 games in a year at this point. Kochetkov, they want him to be something that he's not right now. And it happens a lot with goalies where you'll see them flash in their first or second year.
We saw it last year.
And then they fall off. Okay. Kochetkov, you give up 2 goals in the first minute of the game.
That's oversimplifying.
2 goals in the first minute of the game. But if it was just one game, Joe, I would say to you, fine. But go back to the Colorado game. Go back to the other games in that first West Coast trip where they really struggled in net. And if you can't, with Freddie, with the health issues to Freddie, this is a team that has to make a major move in goal or they will not achieve what they want to achieve this year. That is clear to me on December 7th. That has been crystallized to me.
Am I trying to say that goaltending's been great? No. Goaltending is part of a problem, but there's a larger problem for the Carolina Hurricanes. And I put that strictly on the defense. The defense has not been good.
Their defense needs to be better.
Their defense, which is supposed to be, and on paper, one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the NHL, with the best defender in the NHL, and Jacob Slavin, has been bad. Straight up bad. They have been incredibly inconsistent on a night in, night out basis. Does Peter Kochetkov need to clean some things up? Absolutely. But when you let Edmonton and their star players like Connor McDavid and the crew get in front of Peter Kochetkov like they did, I mean, they basically were just able to get right in front of Kochetkov and get what they wanted. And when you watch the replays, what do you see? You see one defender trailing. You see a guy out of position. You see guys not selling out, which is something that Jordan Stahl, after the game, called out once again.
Yeah, we better. It's not great the way we've been kind of up and down this season, and we got to flush it quick as you can, and we got to start buying into what we do. And to a man, I've got to be better. I've been very average from the start of the season, and there's other guys in this room I know that need more or want more for themselves, and we got to start believing the way we play and what we do, and we'll try again tomorrow.
This is twice in less than a month's time where Jordan Stahl, the captain, is overall questioning the buy-in of the team. And Rod Brindamore had an interesting sequence after the game where, I mean, look, he says that, yeah, man, you want to have those goals back. Being down 0-2, 13 seconds apart in the first minute of the game is not how you want to start things, but it went beyond that.
Any sign of this game coming? It looks like we've been
playing
fairly well.
We had one of our best games of the year the other night, and we lost that one. And that's the hard part, because for this year, how it's gone, we've played pretty well and gotten nothing out of the games we've lost. This was an absolute, not what we've seen. But you get those during the year. It's definitely one I hopefully we obviously don't repeat.
Does it start with maybe not getting a save early if you would have gone a save?
No, that's part of it, but you can't blame them on that. You don't blame them on that. It's just we weren't ready. The face-off play they ran, we showed it 15 times before the game, and we fall asleep on it. So that's just preparation. Guys weren't, dialed in, and it happens. 82 games, you get a little sleepy, but not against teams like that where they have the talent they have. You can't give them a second, because that's what happened.
So that's Rod Brindamore after the game. And the part that made me raise an eyebrow was that part about we showed them this 15 times off the face-off, and they still just did not execute. They were sleepy. And look, Rod is right. In the course of an 82-game season, you're going to have some nights where you simply don't have it. I know on the TNT broadcast, Rod almost channeled his inner Coach K. You could tell he was hanging out with Coach K recently. He was this close to being like, wow, it's like they got snatched by aliens. One of those press conferences that every so often Mike Krzyzewski would do. So I think there is a larger problem for the Carolina Hurricanes right now that goes beyond goalies. They could go out and get somebody to replace Freddie Anderson, who we don't know due to health concerns is going to come back. But that's still not going to solve their defensive inconsistencies, and more for a problem for the Carolina Hurricanes. The thing that I'm most concerned with, I think defensively, they'll finally find themselves again. They're too good to be this sloppy like they've been. They're too good to be this sloppy. You got to score, man. You got to score. And if you want the biggest indictment for the Carolina Hurricanes in their offseason moves or what they want to do, they just don't get a dude. The dudes, or the thing that I'm starting to see percolate, and I think it's a perfectly fine conversation to have. I know Ryan over at the Hockey News brought this up in his post-game report from last night's game. You have to start wondering about the system that puts these guys in a place to create a bunch of shots, but not exactly cash those shots. They're basically counting on creating the chaos in front of the net, and things will eventually burst open. I remember having these conversations the last 5 years when it comes to the Carolina Hurricanes. They'll say, hey, we're creating chances. We're creating chances. It's going to break for us. It's going to break for us. It's going to break for us. The system that got them to this point is awesome, but I do wonder if this system is ultimately handcuffing them when you have to find other ways to win. I knock the Dolphins for being the exotic car that if once a gasket blows, they can't recover. That's my concern with the Carolina Hurricanes. If you are not running on time, if the system is not completely working the way it's supposed to be, then you just fall apart like this and you have nights like that. That's what prevents you from being a cup contender. You have to find other ways to win if it's not working the way you want it to go. I love the belief in their system. I love that the hard work ethic is ultimately what's going to push you over, because Rod Brindamore knows no other way. But based on what I've seen so far this season, the system is not working on a night in, night out basis. And that is more than a goaltending problem, Joe.
They have some issues that go beyond a bad performance by a goalie.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the teams that they're playing and who they're struggling against, that to me is the red flag.
Okay.
going back to that other trip, when you talk about losing to Colorado and the way that they did, at home losing to Tampa the way that they did. The game that Rod's referencing is the New York game, when he says we played our best game of the year and we had nothing to show for it. They played the Islanders on Thursday. They absolutely dominated the Islanders and controlled them. And Kochetkov gave up some goals that he had no business giving up. I'm just telling you, you're right when you say systematically they need to get their head screwed on, both in the forward group and defensively. The Orlov thing is kind of sort of fascinating, right? They added Orlov as almost like a bonus piece, but he does seem to be throwing off the chi a little bit.
That can get fixed over time.
Okay. Which I think is, you got to understand what you're trying to do. You got to understand the culture. They may need to understand he's not going to get it. I don't know the guy.
No, you're right about that.
I'm just saying they added him as like this bonus thing. They might need to move him in a trade to get a goalie. They might need to move some other guys that they don't want to give up in order to get a goalie. Based on what I'm telling you, it's almost like we love to talk about quarterbacks. MJ Morris, right? When NC State went to MJ Morris, there was a jolt.
Oh,
there was a jolt.
That's a classic hockeyism where the guy in the net, it goes from the goal mouth out. There's a confidence.
You got to believe in it.
Yes, you got to believe in it.
I think right now they're putting this guy back there, and it's like there's too many games like the Islanders game, not this game, right? You're right. A guy comes in, what the hell he's supposed to do? It could be Patrick Waugh back there. What are you looking for here?
Right.
Marty Brodeur in the day of like the dead puck and winning 1-0 ain't gonna happen.
When you literally have some of the best NHLers, camping out in front of you.
But that's also the problem. Like I'm saying, it's who they're losing these runaway games to.
Yeah.
Tampa, Colorado, Edmonton, right? Like those are the nights when you say, oh, it's an 82 game schedule. I could forgive you sleeping through the Blue Jackets game. I could forgive you sleeping through the San Jose game.
That was Rod's point.
I can't forgive you. And they beat Edmonton in Raleigh 2 weeks ago. So you know who had this one circled, and they had 6 days off. Fair enough.
Yeah, but sometimes teams come off those 6-day layoffs and they have nothing.
And they're rusty, but fair enough. They were jumped and ready to go. But like those are the kind of nights you gotta be popping. I was slightly disappointed in the Winnipeg game for that reason. Because you're like, wait a second, okay, you figured some things out. You beat Buffalo at home. That was like the payback for the Islanders loss, right? You got to keep those things going. You have to play a certain way to do that. They're not playing that certain way. And I have faith that they can solve that. But I'm telling you right now, they have to solve this problem before they can solve their other one.
Housekeeping. Have you gone to ogtrianglemedia.com and filled out our survey yet?
Yes.
Have you, Joe?
I don't think I'm supposed to fill out the survey.
No, you're not. You're not. If you have an issue or
I do want to highlight the email though we got from our listener in Alaska.
Okay.
That's amazing to me. I know, like I realize it doesn't. The effort that I have to download in Raleigh is not. I don't have to make more of an effort to download in Alaska, but I love
the internet.
Chris Brassfield listens to us in Alaska. Like I read this email this morning and I was like, man, I like throwing the starfish back into the ocean. He was warming my heart. I was moved. Chris Brassfield, i.e., spokesman for your rural Alaska market.
Yeah, sent him a color changing cup and some other stuff. Yeah,
good. Send him a hoodie. He's buying hoodies. I mean, supporting us. Wants a subscription fee. Like he's basically saying, like, here is my money.
Take it.
How can I give it to you, please?
Yes.
I love you.
So that's the point of ogtrianglemedia.com. Head on over there today. Fill out that survey because we have some ideas for 2024, but we want to make sure that whatever ideas we have makes sense. It might be something that you would want, or if there's something that we're not doing that you think we should do, then by all means, suggest it to it. Now,
is there a way to do a live Thursday show from Alaska? Could we go see the Northern Lights?
It would blow our budget. I mean, how much do you think it costs to get out to Alaska?
I don't know.
I mean, I guess we could crash at Brassfield's place.
Obviously.
Right? And as we've established, you will literally sleep on a cardboard floor.
Yes, obviously.
So we could do that.
I would love to see the Northern Lights. That's a thing, right?
But that's like our entire
Alaska?
That's like our entire budget.
We have no budget.
Well, that's not true. I bought stickers.
Stickers. I need another sticker since I gave my sticker to that brown old lady.
We have stickers.
Yeah, we do. These stickers are nice.
So we have these. They're glitter stickers. It's just shit. Just be happy. Although apparently I misquoted it. It should just be shit. Be happy. But you know what? We're going to make this work. So here's how this is. I had a sticker mule deal that was like $20 for a bunch of stickers. This is a limited run. So if you want a sticker, I'm capping it at 20. The first 20 people to email me, theoggoesdigital.com at gmail.com. Again, that's theoggoesdigital at gmail.com. We got to find a new email. It's a mouthful. The first 20 people who say they want this sticker.
What's wrong with OG Media?
Well, I don't think it was available.
Okay.
That's why it's OG Triangle Media. You know how many people think they're OGs?
Yes.
Right? Like, we're not original.
That's a good point.
So we had to be very regional specific in that. Plus, I like to play on it because there's a lot of people like the Triangle Media. That's right. Yes. Well, we are OG Triangle Media, if you will. So anyway, the OG goes digital at gmail.com. Email me, say you want this sticker, and I'll put it in the mail hopefully before the end of the year. And shouts to Chris,
man. Yeah, man, that's awesome. For real. Thank you.
Absolutely love that. And shouts to Mosquito Authority for sponsoring Ovias and Gilio. Check them out, bugsbite.com. Mosquito Authority, Pest Authority. Right now is the time to be considering the creatures that might be getting into your house. It's cold. They want in. You want to keep them out. Things like termites, that's another thing you want to keep in mind. So head on over to bugsbite.com. And if you want to be thinking about some changes for your patio setup next year, contact Mosquito Authority and start thinking about the misting system that keeps those bugs away. And it'll keep you cool, too, while you're out there trying to grill. So big thanks to Mosquito Authority and Pest Authority. Check them out at bugsbite.com. Also, thanks to Breeze Through. Locations across the Triangle, locations across North Carolina. They got one outside PNC Arena, Carter Finley Stadium. They got one in Chapel Hill. They got one in Cary. They're all over. Most importantly, while you're running around and you're trying to get all the gifts or trying to run from one holiday party to the next, yes, you're going to drop on by. You're probably going to fill up, but you also know what else you need to fill up on. Caffeine to keep you awake this time of the year. So hit that coffee.
The best.
So we are live to tape on a Thursday, which means on Friday, the new Butcher's Market opens up on Lake Boone, Joe.
Get over there, Lake Boone Trail Shopping Center, Butcher's Market. Get yourself ready for Christmas. Do it now. Get yourself set up for that meal. What are you waiting for?
Oh, no. Hold up. Are you kidding me? I should put my phone away sometimes when we're doing the show but yes and no, there's a yin and a yang to this because we found out Frank Reich got fired while we're in the middle of recording a show live to tape. And then I got the ESPN alert that it was happening. Deuce, can I hire Manny Diaz? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding?
Hey, maybe Ryan McGee can come work as the offensive coordinator.
I should call up Ryan McGee right now. You ready to dust off the ESPN intern story for Manny Diaz? Are you kidding me? So I went to hold on a second. Okay, this is from Thamel. Sources: Penn State defensive coordinator Manny Diaz has emerged as the focus of Duke's head coaching search. A decision is expected. What's the decision to make? Don't hire him. Go look at what he did in Miami. If you can't at Miami with everything available to you, what makes you think it's going to happen at Duke? He's a decent enough defensive coordinator. He is not a head coach.
Yeah, some guys are better as coordinators. I think Manny's perfectly good.
Perfect
defensive coordinator.
Look, man, he was in his bag when he was the defensive coordinator for Miami. Turnover chain, all that stuff. But once he got to be elevated to head coach, remember, he was supposed to be at Temple too. I think he was a Temple head coach for 24 hours? Not even? Because Mark Richt, health concerns, etc., walked away. And then it was, all right, now it's Manny Diaz time. Hold on a second.
Mark Richt didn't want to fire his kid, is what happened.
You're right. You're right. Hold on a second. Pulling up the wiki. Because I forgot how many places he's been.
Oh,
yeah, Florida State.
He was with Mac. Don't forget that was the Taysom Hill game where Mac had to fire him.
That's right. I forgot about that. It's right here. Here it is on Wikipedia. September 7th, 2013. Longhorns defense under Diaz gave up a school record 550 yards rushing to BYU, including 257 to Taysom Hill. The following day, Mac Brown described the defensive performance as unacceptable, relieved Diaz of his duties as defensive coordinator. Then he gets to Miami. Then there was the Temple thing. That's right. 2 weeks later, it was 2 weeks. I said 24 hours. It was 2 weeks later. Shows up in Miami where he goes 6-7, 8-3, 7-5. They'll always have the Sun Bowl, Joe, which they didn't play because of I think that was because of the pandemic, right? What happened in that game?
Miami's claim to fame is they beat State in 21.
That's right. You always bring up the Manny Diaz game.
Yeah,
it's like you can't
he
lose
got
that
fired
game.
Pretty quickly after that. I mean, listen, Manny Diaz, like you said, some guys are just better coordinators than they are head coaches. Manny Diaz, all I needed to know, I saw when they went to Chapel Hill in 2019, and remember, Chuck was there, Amato, because remember, Manny Diaz is.
Hold on a second, Dad.
What?
We're recording right now.
Hi, Hernando. Hola.
There's your mom.
Well, okay, hi, Mom. So
Miami has the Dolphins. The greatest football team. All right.
So Manny Diaz, really?
For Duke?
Yeah, apparently they're going to hire him at Duke.
Well, Joey, you want me to be honest with you?
Yeah, be honest with me. You're on FaceTime right now. I got you on the mic.
I think it might be like a minority hire,
Cubans repping. Let's go.
Yeah, well, but that counts as a minority hire,
Do we count? We don't count. We don't count for that.
I got my job at IBM. 74. Come on. You remember what Manhattan said when I was?
Yeah, we can't say that. So okay. So bad hire?
I don't know. Let's give Manny a second chance.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
Has he been officially hired?
It's on Wikipedia right now. It says December 7th, 2023, Diaz was hired to be the head coach at Duke University. So if Wikipedia says it's real,
then
it's real.
Well, I think your mother says it's a bad hire.
See, Mom is right. Mom is absolutely right.
And my first take is a bad hire, but hey, you got to give people a second chance. Okay? Look at Bobby Bowden. Look at Bobby Bowden at West Virginia. He was fired from West Virginia, and then he went to the Seminoles, and the rest is history. Let's give Manny a chance. If he needs to get a good offensive coordinator. Right? He's a defensive guy, right?
All right.
Maybe he could get Dorsey.
Yeah. Dorsey is available. He's no longer destroying headphones in Buffalo anymore. So
or at Carolina. He could get Dorsey.
Okay. All right. Thanks for the live reaction, Dad. But I'm with Mom. It's a bad hire.
Okay. All right. Let's give Manny a second check.
Okay. Bye, Dad.
Bye.
So back when Chuck Amato was at NC State, he had come from Florida State. Chuck had always recruited in South Florida, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
When he was at NC State, he wanted to recruit in Florida. So Manny Diaz's dad was the mayor of Miami. So Manny became like this guy, like what we mentioned. He worked with Ryan McGee at ESPN, but he also became this. I think he was the assistant to the strength coach. Was his first job with Chuck at NC State. And he kind of moved his way up to the ladder. He was like an assistant coach, and then, as we mentioned, he was at Texas and some of these other places. Ultimately, he gets the head job at Miami in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Miami in the second week of the year. It was Mac Brown's second game in Mac Brown 2.0. Miami comes to Kenan Stadium. Chuck Amato was on the sideline.
Mm-hmm.
And it was literally like watching a Chuck Amato football team. Miami has talent. Miami was fairly inept on offense. And the procedural penalties were like clockwork. And just looking at the scoreboard from this game, looking at the stats from this game, 7 penalties for Miami, 57 yards, 1 penalty for Carolina in a 3-point game. Sometimes it's really that easy is what it comes down to.
All right. Every time we talk about college football, it's brought to you by Wings Over. Check them out. Downtown Raleigh, in Chapel Hill, in Greenville. Sorry, I'm still processing the potential of Manny Diaz being hired by Duke. I will contain myself here in a second. Maybe what I need to do is chill myself out.
Yeah, go get
kick
some
back
tots.
and get some tots. Right?
Great idea.
That sounds like a wonderful idea. Yeah, so check out Wings Over. Go to the website. When you put in an order for Wings Over and you say you want it at 6 o'clock, it's going to be ready at 6 o'clock. I cannot stress how timely it is. A lot of places are like, oh, I'm going to pick it up, whatever. And then maybe they'll get to you 15 minutes later. Now, it is on time every time I've ordered from Wings Over. So check them out. Wings Over Raleigh, Wings Over Chapel Hill, and Wings Over Greenville. From college football over to the pros, did you read or see the headlines related to the Carolina Panthers, David Tepper, and the Hunger Games, Joe?
I know you read it.
I feel like you would have read it if it went from Hunger Games. I'm guessing a movie you haven't seen.
No, sorry.
If it went Game of Thrones reference,
yeah, I'll be all in. I understand it.
If Joe Person and Diana Rossini and their headline editor at The Athletic went, instead of Hunger Games atmosphere at Bank of America Stadium, it went, the scenes to Frank Reich's firing, chaos is a ladder. Would that have been the hook?
Right? Yeah.
Would that have been the hook?
Yes.
All right, you would have been on that one. So I spent last night going through. It's a 12-minute read.
Okay.
Through Pocket, which is a read later app that I use. It'll tell you how long the read typically lasts. Most stories will last 3-5 minutes. This was a 12-minute deep dive into what happened behind the scenes. And I had 3 takeaways. Ultimately, 3 takeaways from this piece that was well sourced. The first one is, I don't think that, as much as they've tried to position the Bryce Young acquisition, the draft pick, what they did to go get him, I don't think it's as universal as they've been trying to make it out to be. Or it just could be, on my way out the door, more Hunger Games, I'm going to CYA on my own for the next job. That's entirely possible based on the sourcing of this story. So when we talked to JJ from CBS Sports, he's like, everybody wanted the pick. There was no dissension. When we talked to Mike Kay, yeah, that was the pick. David Tepper, for as goofy as that press conference was, and he brought Messi to Charlotte. Thank you, David Tepper. He was no, everybody was on the same page. But reading this story, I get the sense that not everybody in that building, based on what they saw so far this season, thinks that Bryce Young is the answer. I think you and I are on the same page with Bryce Young, that it's way too early to tell with Bryce Young. Way too early. I know you think he's not that guy, but I think in today's NFL environment, you don't have to be that guy. You can be a Tua Tagovailoa and operate the offense with a guy like Tyreek Hill. Now, does that absolve them moving up to get Bryce Young and everything else? I get all that part.
Your takeaway from this story, though, was you actually were trying to find ways to defend David Tepper?
That's my third takeaway.
Let him off the hook a little bit?
That was my third takeaway. Okay. That's my third takeaway. So I'm setting it up to get there, because the first big takeaway was Bryce Young related. And there are people in that building that don't think he's the guy.
Sure.
And they're worried about his footwork. And I think there was some blurbs about how they felt Frank Reich wasn't hard enough on him. They were protecting him too much, which gets to my second point. It's pretty clear that whether it's a break it, you buy it, whether you truly believe Bryce Young is the guy, whatever it is, Frank Reich needed to go now, because they're absolutely worried, or they were worried about breaking Bryce Young further. Because you've been asking this question, what do you gain out of firing Frank Reich?
This isn't
now?
Like you get rid of Jimbo Fisher so you can get in line to hire the coach that you want in college football for signing day.
Totally get that. I think based on this story, the reason why they got rid of him is because if they're going to save Bryce Young, if they're going to get what they expect out of Bryce Young, they cannot break him right now. Who's to say? If you think it's one of those, if you think it's bad now, what's it going to be like 5 games from now? Do you run into the danger of breaking this top pick and never being able to develop him further? And I think the way that Frank Reich played this all out remember there was a story from JJ earlier in the year about throwing too much at him. They got to simplify things. Well, let's go to the play calling. All right, we're building up to Thomas Brown. They give it to Thomas Brown. They win a game. All right, let's go with it. 3 games later, they yank it back. Joe Person, to his credit, ripped Frank Reich for that entire thing, that entire ordeal. You can't say this is what you're building to. We trust in Thomas. This is awesome. And then take it back from him thinking that it's not going to, that people aren't going to forget it, that people aren't going to be hurt. Thomas Brown clearly bothered by this, or that it could potentially affect yet another change in the system, another change in the approach for Bryce Young, who I'm guessing when he was at Alabama with Nick Saban, you didn't deal with this much turmoil and this much change in a given state, right? So I think that's why they had to fire him now, which gets to my third point. I don't know if you help me out here. I don't know if it's a defense of David Tepper, but more of a maybe we're focusing on the wrong things. I'm starting to think, based on this well-reported story from Joe Person, it's not that David Tepper is meddlesome. I think David Tepper is like any other owner in the NFL, where this is their main thing. You're like, what, you don't think Jerry Jones knows what's going on?
Yeah, don't use the exception as the rule.
What's the guy in Washington, Jay, whatever? I forgot the guy's name. Is it Jay Harris? I think it is.
The new guy.
The new guy up in Washington, like they're not involved. Everybody's involved. I mean, that's just what it is. That's the nature of the beast in the NFL. Everybody's involved. Like Robert Kraft wasn't involved with the day-to-day and keeping tabs with Bill Belichick? I'm just saying, man. When he wasn't hanging out with Meek Mill. Or maybe when he was hanging out with Meek Mill.
I can't speak for all 32 teams.
Do
I think this is abnormal? I do. Yes, I do.
So to that point, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt and say it's not abnormal for the owner to know what's going on with all these things. It could just be that he's not meddlesome. It could just be that he's incompetent. We do this a lot. We confuse incompetence for some 4D chess, that there's some sort of game theory going on for why they might be bad at this. We see this all the time with Silicon Valley tech bros. We're lighting millions on fire, billions on fire. What are they really trying to do? What's the game theory? No, they're just bad at this. They're not as brilliant as you thought they were. Happens a lot in this business. Now, I think that Tepper was right to get rid of Ron Rivera. I think Tepper was right to want to get rid of Matt Rule. He should have done it earlier, but eventually he knew, all right, I got to move on. I think he was right based on the pieces that we're putting together that it was time to get rid of Frank Reich now. The question is, the incompetence that he's shown in putting the right person in place, will he eventually get to a point where he will put that right person in place? When you look at, and I was texting with somebody that's close to the Panthers about this last night, that David Tepper is fighting a battle that he cannot win perception-wise because there are people like Frank Reich the NFL just likes. Yeah. The way it was positioned to me is that NFL people cannot comprehend firing Frank Reich because he's so well liked. And it was universally lauded. Let's not act like hiring Frank Reich wasn't mostly like 99% lauded as the right thing. And they needed the stability. But in actual execution, it's pretty clear it wasn't working. He wasn't the right guy. It wasn't a good fit. So I'm not going to fault David Tepper for moving on from that poor fit. Again, I don't know if I'm defending David Tepper.
Yeah, I mean, you can't read an article and be like, well, I changed my mind because, some unnamed sources that were probably the people who were let go.
But maybe it's not changing my mind.
I guess what I'm getting at is you say it's okay to move on from Rivera when they did. When you make a decision, you're trying to right a situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like last year when he got rid of Rule, he should have gotten rid of Rule in the offseason, but it was early enough in the season that he could actually potentially save the year.
Mm-hmm.
There's no saving this year. The year with Rivera, there was no saving the year.
True.
So in the NFL, you paint yourself, you are what your decisions say you are. You are what your record says you are. If you're firing Rivera for no reason in the middle of the year, then you're impetuous.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If you don't know when it's time to get rid of Matt Rule and then you get rid of him at the wrong time, you're dumb. And now if you're getting rid of Reich after 11 games, for what reason? Now, if you want to advance, if he really wanted to advance this as the reason he did it, he should have come out and said straight up, Bryce Young is our number one asset. We have to protect Bryce Young. Frank is failing Bryce Young. And I view this as a way to try to potentially save and protect Bryce Young.
Yes.
He should have said that, not some story in the Athletic.
He let us speculate.
Okay?
He ultimately let us speculate.
So there you go. So you want to defend them? That's fine. But these moves, they weren't good moves. They weren't the right moves.
Yeah.
And the beauty of him owning the team and getting to make the choices is he gets to make another move and he can save himself.
Look, man, I was just trying to workshop it.
That's fine.
I'm just trying to workshop a way that maybe David Tepper isn't as meddlesome as we were making him out to me. He might just be bad at it. That's all. There's a difference.
There's both.
There is a difference here.
Yeah.
There is a difference. You know who's not bad at things? Graffiti. They're really good at picking bourbon.
At getting bourbon.
Excellent at getting bourbon. So head on over to Downtown Cary. It's a wonderful time to head to Downtown Cary right now. That's all done up for Christmas. And Graffiti's got the drinks that you want to check out. They got a wonderful cocktail menu, great mixed drinks, but the bourbon is why you want to go. The bourbon's fantastic. And they got break-even nights on Tuesdays, bourbon specials on Sundays for football, And who knows? Maybe we'll do an axe throwing event at some point here in the near future
on December 28th.
But just something to
Randomly.
consider out of nowhere. You never know. Big thanks to State Farm, Matt Davis. Call him a call right now at 919-779-8277, insuregarner.com or theoginsurance.com to save on insurance. Car, home, they got it. I've been a State Farm customer for a long time. Hit up Matt Davis today.
You said some things are 2024 issues. Well, here's an idea. Save yourself some money in 2024. Hit up Matt Davis, 919-779-8277. See where you can save some money in your home insurance and your auto insurance. Heck, maybe even your pet insurance. You got to take care of those little guys too. 919-779-8277.
Head on over to homefieldapparel.com. Use the promo code OG23 right now to stock up on Christmas. Stocking stuffers, great throwback t-shirts. If you just want a comfortable hoodie, they got the Home Field collection as well. I think they got 20% off right now with the Home Field collection.
They got a lot of things going on, particularly if you use the app.
Yes.
You can save yourself some more money.
So head on over to homefieldapparel.com and get your goodies today.
Move on.
Hanging out with us in studio is Lauren Brownlow. That Brownlow lady. You like our new sticker?
I love it, actually. I love this so much.
Although, again, as Gilio pointed out to me, I did get the quote wrong, but it's too late now.
I mean, I actually think this works because it applies to more things.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
I agree.
Come on.
So let's talk about the Tar Heels in basketball. I've been told by Tar Heel people that I have this wrong. It's not about last year. It's about a larger issue that's faced North Carolina basketball the last couple of years. Something that North Carolina basketball has lacked.
Yeah. Yes.
And you and I were texting about this yesterday when I said, hey, what time you coming in? XYZ. And you said, yeah, this team just has that BDE.
Okay. But I can explain.
Please
Maybe
explain.
That's not the best way of putting it.
Explain the UNC BDE.
Specifically, it's a thing that they've lacked, I would argue, for the last, if you want to say, like 5 years, right? Give or take.
Sure.
They've kind of lacked that. And what that is, to me, maybe that's not the right word. Maybe it's, I've heard somebody say about like Harrison Ingram's game, which I thought was a perfect way of describing it. He has some fuck you to it.
Mm-hmm.
And this Carolina team has some fuck you to it. And they have not had that in a little bit here. And I think that is like, this team is flawed. It's going to have its issues.
Oh, of course.
It's going to lose games here and there, but like they will fight. And that is not, I mean, what sticks out to me, for instance, is like when Carolina played Kentucky in Vegas, a couple years, was it 2 years ago now? I think it was 2 years ago. They just got, they got punked.
Hubert's
like I saw
year.
it. Yeah. They got punked in that game. They were intimidated. They backed down. Like, it wasn't the first time. It wasn't the last time we would see that out of them, right? And now this team, they may play badly for some stretches and whatever, but they fight. They continue to fight. They stick in games even when they're not playing well. Do they always make the perfect decision? No, not necessarily. But they'll get a little nasty. They don't back down easily. And you see teams testing them because that was their rep, is that they're going to back down if you rough them up a little bit. And this Carolina team is here to say, no, absolutely not.
Well, we'll find out very soon. Not that their schedule hasn't been amazing,
right.
But what the litmus test for that is when Pitt gets here on January 2nd.
Oh, their nemesis.
Or they go there, January 2nd. But still, that's the game where you're like, oh.
Yeah, that's been their nemesis.
You got the Capel brothers telling you you're soft.
For sure.
Right?
Okay. Yeah, there's definitely an element there for sure. But like Tennessee was the team that I thought was a big barometer for them. You could tell Tennessee thought they would come in there and get kind of physical with them and they would back down. And then Carolina was like, no, we'll give it to you as good as you're giving it to us. And so I think that is kind of what what an element that this team has that it's lacked in recent years. And I think that plus having an elite passer, which is something Carolina hasn't had a passer like Cadeau in quite some time. You've heard me complain about the fact that they have had no really, like the last great passer or like good, even like very good passer they have had is Theo Pinson. Like full stop. That was the last one. And then the last like elite point guard passer was Kendall Marshall.
Yeah, Marshall was the last elite level guy that they had.
As a pure passer.
Pure passer.
That's what I mean.
I think, again, because people get caught up in new, it's interesting that we're having this conversation. And for basketball fans of a certain age, these names will roll off the tongue. I think for younger fans, they're looking for the next Kobe White. That's the thing.
Well, except he's not a scorer.
Right.
And they don't need that.
They don't need that.
They don't need that from this team. And by the way, if you want the next, I mean, I'm not saying RJ Davis is Kobe White. I'm not saying that, but he is clearly a lot more comfortable in his role right now. It actually has made me wonder a little bit, like, on behalf of a guy like Caleb Love, like how much would he be playing differently if he had a dude that was like setting him up as well as Cadeau is capable of setting everybody up. And the ball just moves so much more fluidly now. It doesn't really get stuck as often as you saw it get stuck last year. They have guys that move without the basketball, like Harrison Ingram. Cormac Ryan has been fantastic.
Sped their game up too.
Yes.
You know, like it was just painful at times to watch.
Oh,
it was
so
brutal.
At times,
that's not Carolina.
No.
You know what I mean? Like it's okay if another team wants to go all full Wisconsin or Virginia, your favorite. But like Carolina can't do that.
I don't know why we're even.
Carolina can't do that.
You know enough about offenses to know they're not even like. It's ridiculous. This is why I can't talk to people who just blindly hate Virginia basketball because I'm like, because they bring up things like that. And then I'll be like, do you watch Clemson? What do you think of them? And they'll be like, no, not you, but like in general.
I'm saying this year.
Not this year specifically, in general, but like Clemson basketball,
That's
a lot
terrible.
of years. Okay, well, most people will be like, what? What'd Clemson do? It's like, oh, you don't care about them? Why? You care about Virginia because they beat you?
You put some respect on Clemson's name.
I know.
Undefeated.
No, Clemson's playing well this year.
Beat South Carolina
They've got some
last
nice
night.
pieces.
These are things that we've been talking
and
about.
good for Brad Brownell for not face planning in the non-con. Like, that has been a thing that has been an issue for
They're
them.
in, baby.
That's been an issue for Clemson in the past where they face planted in the non-con, hurt everybody else's net.
All they needed was the mighty gemstone from the traveling Bayheim show to get there. Gerard. No, I did think of you. They played Virginia. I mean, we could just sidetrack here. They scored 41 points against Virginia this year in 2023. Then they won a basketball game where they scored 59 in a game that was really important when they beat Texas A&M. It's okay that you love Virginia, but you love like the best version of Virginia. Like those guys are gone.
Right, I love.
Joe Harris is gone.
Here's my thing. I
You know,
like when
the guys who were good are gone.
Again,
That guy.
When
he's
I
gone.
understand what they're doing offensively, and I do, it makes it easier for me to follow and appreciate and enjoy, even if they don't always have the guys to pull it off as beautifully as some of the guys they've had in the past. At least I understand what they're attempting to do and why. You know what I mean? Whereas a lot of teams on offense I watch and I go, why? What are you trying to do here?
They're Iowa. When they don't have the pieces, they're Iowa.
Oh my God.
They're Iowa football. Seriously. No, they want to win with defense.
I mean, it's fine.
They want to like play a low possession.
Right, but
Let's
Iowa,
defend.
they're not bad on offense on purpose. That's
Yeah,
not a
that's
thing.
fair.
It's absolutely
fair.
not a
That's
thing.
fair.
They have a
Speaking-
plan that they're trying to execute.
Speaking of defense,
You can have a plan. Doesn't mean you're any good at it without any skill.
I do think that the issue with Carolina is size and inconsistency on defense.
That's being kind.
Yeah, I'm going to go with inconsistency on defense. Well,
They can force turnovers.
Because
like
that's the thing in the Florida State game. The turning point in that game was. But again,
I know
the point of that turnaround for Carolina in that game, which is the game that a lot of people pointed to, and again, the motto, in my opinion, for UNC is they woulda ... last year.
Right.
They pressed. It created the turnovers. They got their offense going, and it turned things around. I think that's where your BDE point comes into play too, because they weren't gonna we're not gonna lose this damn game.
Yes, they had that moment in that game.
Armando Boycott, I pointed this out on yesterday's show. Yeah, was UConn better than them?
Yes.
Is UConn a national title contender? Yes. We don't know that about Carolina. But Armando Boycott was not going to get punked in that game. And he took a technical, in my opinion, just to show that he wasn't going to get punked.
I don't know. I don't know if he thought he was going to get one for that, to be fair.
No, I think... No.
You think he did?
I think he did. I think he was, if I get it, I get it. I don't care.
Well, okay, yeah, that's probably true.
So that's
Either way, it's a good tech, if you want to call it that.
Duke, on the other hand...
I don't know, man.
They're not exuding the BDE right now. That we saw at the end of last year.
Right. Yeah. And look, we do see it take a while with Duke sometimes, right? We do.
Yeah.
New pieces, freshmen sometimes we see it take a while to like fall into place. But I think like the thing that's missing, at least early this season, is like you just keep waiting for Duke because they're Duke, right? To just make that one or two more plays. Like in the Arkansas game, they just kept hanging around.
Mm-hmm.
And every time it seemed like, okay, they have the ball, they have the chance to take the lead. Like they just couldn't do it. And then they kind of run out of gas by the end. I also I'm a little unsure of what it is they're trying to accomplish offensively. I wouldn't go as far as to say like, I have no idea, but it's also like their offensive half-court possessions have been a bit of a mess.
Mm-hmm.
to this point, and they are a good defensive team, and I think that's what's kept them in a lot of these games. But I think offensively they have a ways to go, and then it doesn't hurt to lose Proctor, obviously.
I was gonna say they got to figure out how to get Proctor back to his form from the end of last year. He's been the biggest issue. They just don't have a lot of shooters.
Because Roach has played well, I think, for the most part.
I have the same questions about Duke ultimately that I have about Carolina. Who's going to make a shot when you need someone to make a shot?
I think I know the answer.
I think there's more for Carolina than like they're more like.
Okay, yes, in the ACC, fine.
RJ Davis, Harrison Ingram.
No. The standard for Carolina, as you just saw against UConn,
sure.
Yeah.
UConn had like 5 guys.
Sure. Right.
Like if you're going to have Cormac Ryan and Cadeau on the floor, and
Ryan needs to make
and
open
whoever
threes.
else on the floor,
he's got to make open
just
threes.
and Baycott's not going to make a shot. So you got RJ Davis and Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
UConn had 4 guys who was going to make a shot.
Yeah, I got you.
So that's what I'm saying. Like if you want to be on this standard, that's your standard.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's
when I
placing UNC on that standard.
No, but that's where they want to be.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah,
right.
for sure.
That's where Duke wants to be.
Yeah.
And I have the same question about both of them.
I don't know who the one guy is for Duke.
Filipowski is their bus driver.
Yeah. But sometimes they forget that he's driving the bus.
They do.
And that's kind of the issue that I've had with them when I've watched.
Proctor?
No.
Not
over
a shooter.
Filipowski.
I can't wait for Carolina and Duke to play because they're very similar.
Yeah.
Ingram being the X factor.
They both have rebounding issues right now.
Yeah. Size, but
Duke's better defensively right now, and Carolina's way better offensively.
Yes.
So that's what would make
and I love
it
Davis.
interesting.
Like Davis is better than Roach.
Mm-hmm.
You think so?
That's what Roach is supposed to be.
I think so.
In theory.
I guess so. Yeah.
Okay.
Cadeau, Proctor, Cadeau's
he's had his growing pains. You've seen it.
Yeah.
And he needs to shoot a higher percentage from the foul line. Like that can't.
Yeah.
Well, but even Armando Baycott was 5 of 10 from the foul line in that loss to UConn. Like they just didn't have it that night.
But Cadeau in general, he's like 60% or something.
Yeah.
Like you're the point guard. They got to have the ball in your hands late. If you can't make a free throw, that's not good.
Yeah, I don't think Hubert Davis is going to have a moment this season where he complains about we only got to the line X times. Like we expect to get to the line X times.
No, I don't think they're going to have that problem this year. And they have had it in recent years.
Yeah. That's part of speeding up and going to the basket.
And they've done so much more attacking, like getting into the paint. And last year they would just kind of pass around the perimeter for a while. Someone might dribble a lot
jack one up,
and jack up. Yeah, exactly.
So I was on Reddit, as one who is extremely online tends to do, and I was scrolling and I came across the college football subreddit, and there was a story with a speculation that with the Orange Bowl press conference being canceled, like it was like a sudden cancellation for an Orange Bowl press availability.
They're going to play the game.
It got people going. It got the people going. It's provocative to think that Florida State and all the stuff that's happened this week and everybody being mad about being left out of the college football playoff, that they would protest and not play in the Orange Bowl.
You know when you protest? When you're not leaving, what is it, $6 million on the table? How much?
I mean, there's bowl money there, but that's why they all agreed to the college football playoff format that they did, because this isn't 1997 when Carolina lost to Virginia and it cost the league $10 million for them not making the Fiesta Bowl. It's not that. Boy, that would be fascinating. But I don't know why people aren't acting like Carolina wasn't the one that broke the Orange Bowl, because they did.
With their opt-outs
in 2020, when Carolina hadn't been to a major bowl game since 1950. Nobody
wanted to play.
Sam Howell played in the game with Josh Downs, like before we knew who Josh Downs was. Like, that was it. And so why are people like now like acting like, oh, the Bulls are broken?
But
and this has been happening. Like Christian McCaffrey sat out of a bowl game. Like I don't understand. Like he's been in the NFL now for how many years?
Yeah, I don't get that part, because like I get your point about North Carolina and the Orange Bowl. But what's funny about that, though, is that all those guys who did play are the reason why people were optimistic about UNC going into the next year. Because it was like, look at these guys that are getting time. This is going to be our core.
Sorry.
And look, did Josh Downs not live up to the billing? Right? Dude balled out. So,
blood.
How about this? How about Florida State opts out entirely Orange Bowl and claims a national championship?
I don't see. That's the thing, though. Like,
Love it.
No. I will say this.
Because if it's all about projecting, like, well, we feel you would have been run out of the college football playoff, without Jordan Travis. Like, well, we feel with our defense and what we've done, we feel that we would have won, and we are going to claim So if it's all based on feelings, because that's all this is. That's all college football is about.
I do genuinely think that they could potentially swing some AP people, like if the wrong team won it all. Like if a team that wasn't undefeated going in won it all, and they wouldn't. But like, let's say they beat Georgia by beat the crap out of Georgia. Do you not think some AP voters would go, you know what?
But the AP changed the rules after the BCS AP fiasco in 2003? What was it? USC and who?
You could still.
No, you can vote for whoever you want at number one.
But I thought that the AP switched it over after that when they had a split national championship. Was it LSU and USC? Who was it?
Auburn?
It was Auburn. Thank you.
No. You had it.
It's USC and LSU?
LSU.
That was the split national
that was the one,
championship?
yeah.
Okay. I couldn't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, people got mad at me in 2011 when Alabama and LSU had a rematch, and I said, I am not automatically voting for the winner of this game.
Yeah, I get it.
Because LSU already beat Alabama this year. Why do I have to why do I have to base my vote on the outcome of this game? Aren't I supposed to be voting about the entire season?
You remember those days when that epic battle was just a defensive struggle?
Yeah.
Remember that?
Real football
9-6.
Right.
9-6.
It
Real
wasn't at
football
all
fans.
to do with horrible offensive quarterback play. No.
Lauren, real football fans loved that game.
It was the Broughton kicker ended up with
how far
80
have we
points in
come
the
now that Florida State now was being demoted for its
But yeah, look, man, if Central Florida did it when they went undefeated and weren't included, and they had their claim to national championship. I mean, look, you know how
Auburn is the
I just think the claim is stronger.
And Alabama.
I think the claim is stronger. It's not strong either way because we already have an official national. But whatever, I think the people's champ could be a thing, but I think they would have to play in and win the orange.
So
I really do.
If they let's
right?
take,
Don't you think?
Literally, Carolina has a banner from a basketball year that
it's the Helms
Foundation.
So
yeah,
I think it was
that's
Tommy.
how college football basically used to do it for years.
I think it was actually Tommy Tuberville who said the year that they were unbeaten and weren't included. He said, if Golf Magazine says we're number one, I'll put up a banner that says we were national champs.
And there are so look at how many seasons multiple college football teams are we're national champs.
No, we were the national champs.
Right, exactly. And
no,
who's
us.
to say?
Right.
I think we should go back to that.
The New York Times computer poll said we were okay.
So here's what I
It's so sloppy, actually. Why is college football the only sport that's like this?
Because they live off of it. That's what they want.
Plus, it's because it was as intended. It's supposed to be regional. These teams weren't all supposed to play each other.
Although there used to be a 24-team Southern Conference or something like that, way back in the day.
Beautiful, right?
With Sewanee and Tennessee
and that's how the ACC was born. Because they broke off from that conference, and now the ACC is going back in that direction.
If you look back at some of those conferences, the teams in it, you're like, what?
What is this? But we'll close our conversation here on this.
Why exactly?
Let us ruminate.
Florida State fans have been mad at us since the summer. Yeah, because of the
because
we want to leave, and we told them to stop and
stop your whinging and be Florida State, which they did. Which they did to their credit.
Yeah.
So if they have to, you're right, they have to beat Georgia. But I know what the conversation is going to be if they beat Georgia. Well, Georgia wasn't motivated.
I don't care. I'm over that. They can shove it. At this point, I don't care how why they were clearly unmotivated against Alabama too because Kirby Smart is afraid of Nick Saban.
So let's throw a parade for Florida State fans that live in the area.
Oh, our guy Chase. Yeah.
There you go.
We'll do it down Fayetteville Street.
I'll go.
I'll see if Charles Meeker's around. He's not the mayor anymore, but he's the one who gives out keys to the city.
For real?
Well, no. I mean, this goes back to the gate. It's an old Gator vote.
Baldwin will.
I was going to say.
Marianne Baldwin will do it. So
friend of the program.
We make it Florida State Day in Raleigh, Florida State Fan Day in Raleigh when they beat Georgia, right?
That would be hysterical.
We down with that?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
That's the funniest possible thing is if they beat Georgia. I would laugh incredibly hard. I don't see how at this point, but
I would rather that they did protest and just didn't play. That would be awesome.
You think so?
Yeah, I would love that.
But all they're gonna then they'll just be called quitters and all of that, and then it'll be like, oh, you were afraid or whatever stupid.
Tracks for Florida.
I would not play and say it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You said it doesn't matter what happens on the field, so we're not playing. We finished our year. We're ACC champs. We're 13-0.
I'm not saying I would blame them if they did it.
Florida State basketball has already claimed a championship from a game that wasn't played. I mean, they literally were handed the trophy by John Swafford in the pandemic year.
To be fair, I'll allow that.
Nah, I know. They had the best record in the ACC that year.
They could be the ACC champions. I don't know why they had to get the ACC tournament
champions
trophy.
I don't know.
I mean,
whatever.
Was Clemson really winning that?
No, that was the first round game, though.
Lauren.
But yeah, that's true.
Or
You're right.
second
Yeah,
round
you're
or
right. You're
whatever,
right. That was
quarterfinal
second.
game.
You're right.
Lauren,
I'm sorry.
You're now playing that game.
See?
I was like, see what they would have won.
Your
I don't
favorite.
know.
That was a joke, though.
I know.
No, I would absolutely not play in the football game if I was Florida State.
I mean, look,
I can see
it tracks for Florida. You
I was gonna say,
basically say
Florida State
stop
wants
the
to go
count.
independent anyway. Let them go do whatever they want to go do.
They have no path to that.
Let them do it. Go. It'll live football, as Luke likes to call it. Go do it.
Where are they getting money to be independent?
Somebody
will
Doesn't
pay
matter.
the money. Somebody will do
I
it.
don't know if it's anyone that's loyal to them. That's the problem, right?
Well, hey, do what you got to do. Run your own race.
Start a GoFundMe.
They absolutely.
have,
That's what
basically.
They've already done that.
That's what NILs are called.
Yeah.
Those are glorified GoFundMes.
Those are GoFundMes for the players, though,
Yeah.
not for your exit fees.
No. The easy way around the exit fee is it was a gift for our library, and or this is your signing bonus.
Yeah, that's what it is.
They just gave Colorado. The Big 12 just gave Colorado a signing bonus. So as I explained to Holden Thorpe, listen, you can Butch Davis this thing. I'm not a coach. I'm the executive assistant to the regional director. I don't coach the team.
That's right.
I'm not a member of this conference. You just gave me a gift for our library. I don't know what you're talking about.
All right, Lauren.
It just so happens to match the Big Ten television contract.
Right.
Who's to say?
We're not taking any of that.
All right, Lauren. We'll talk to you next week.
All right.
Big thanks to Hometown Realty for sponsoring Ovia's and Gilio. Check them out at myhtr.com. Again, that's myhtr.com. And you can check out Whitaker and Hamer as well if you're going to be closing on a house, closing on a refinance if you need to, or if you have any sort of like traffic issues. But I'm doing the tandem here. Hometown Realty, new construction, key for them. And then when it's time to close, head on over to Whitaker and Hamer.
That was the part I didn't realize. We've been talking about how Hometown Realty is involved in more than 60% of their business is in new construction. Here's the thing about new construction, which I hadn't considered until my friends over at Hometown Realty explained it to me. Builders are offering buyer incentives. Not only that, in this market, they'll even have a rate buy down options. So, you know the best way to get into new construction, you're not going to be able to pick up the phone and call the builder. You got to go through Hometown Realty. Go to myhtr.com. You buy, you sell, you calculate.
Joining us on the Easter Automotive Group hotline from the News and Observer, he is Andrew Carter. Andrew is our chief Who's the Best Program in the State correspondent.
That's right.
And I like how you couched it this week. Or no, it was back at the beginning of the month when you wrote about the end of the regular season and you described NC State as out of the Big Four, clearly the best program in North Carolina. I see what you did there, Andrew.
I'm glad people are paying attention. Thank you for that.
But this gets us to the other thing that you wrote about and the time to retire the sleeping giant moniker for North Carolina. And I know our friend Lauren Brownlow had done a podcast series about the sleeping giant. And the one thing that cracks me up is that there's no verifiable proof that Bobby Bowden ever said North Carolina is a sleeping giant. It's like the Kaiser Soze quote of the ACC. It's just a rumor. You know,
that was a great podcast. So there was a story with it, which I read, I think a couple stories at least. And as I was trying to track down that quote, I think I might have started with the thing that Lauren did, and I read through that. And then that sent me down like a rabbit hole on newspapers.com. You know, I'm a big newspapers.com guy.
By the way, why is it that I mean, my archive system isn't great. Don't get me wrong.
Oh, don't please. No,
but why can't I find shit on the internet,
please,
man?
Just stop. Please just stop. Don't.
Well, it's a great question.
Andrew and Luke with certain topics. This is like, no.
I want to know.
No.
I want to know why I can't. When I was doing research,
this is like, why do I have to do a remote from the aluminum company? Like, come on, man. Don't do it. Don't do it to him. It's not nice.
It is.
I refuse to let you do it.
Okay.
That can be the special Obius podcast. We talk about that and Star Wars and media rights and
he casually dropped some game in yesterday that I was like,
Pikmin,
buddy,
on the Nintendo.
Nobody knows, buddy. What are we doing
on the Nintendo? All right.
But anyway, long story short, I couldn't find it. I couldn't find the quote from Bowden.
Why is Florida State obsessed with Carolina? By the way, you got Sam Cassell, which you wrote a great story about.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
I did. Actual quote. The wine, the cheese and wine,
cheese and wine,
which is the actual quote. Yeah. And now allegedly Bobby Bowden is the one that's attributing Carolina to being a sleeping giant.
That is very interesting. I wish I had made that connection in whatever it was I wrote. That's a great point about Cassell.
That was Virginia Tech who was obsessed with North Carolina.
They both are.
Yeah, that's true.
They both are.
I can see Bowden saying it, like
sure,
just kind of like,
buddy, they're a sleeping giant, buddy. Tell you what.
But this gets us. There's no proof. This gets us to the point of this conversation. We're real long wind up to get to the point of this conversation.
Podcast show. It's
apologies. So the NCAA, for context purposes, the NCAA, Charlie Baker, their president, put forth a proposal that would essentially create college football super conferences. Just cut to the chase here. And Joe started to write down on the yellow pad. I'm like, all right, well, what's a viable list of college football teams, programs that actually, with the money, elevate to this level and be able to compete? And I was thinking about Joe putting this thought experiment together, and then what you wrote about UNC and the Sleeping Giant. Nobody ever doubts North Carolina's financial ability to do things. But I question North Carolina's actual want to when it comes to football. That's ultimately why they have not been this program that people fear. It's just, I don't think there's a want to level when it comes. And the last time they did, it got them in trouble, and they sold Butch Davis out. I mean, honestly, Butch Davis to me was the actual time they tried to get serious about football. It blew up in their face, and they had to protect basketball.
Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. I've had conversations with Bubba Cunningham, the AD at UNC, about this over the years. And I mean, what else do you expect him to say in one respect? In that, he says we're all in. We invest as much as we possibly can. We're committed to this sport. And I do think, the Butch Davis experiment obviously ended in catastrophic fashion for UNC. It was an embarrassment. I think a lot of the old school Bill Friday-esque folks maybe in some ways were vindicated in that, there's been sort of a sense of football bad, perhaps at Carolina, or at least big time football is bad. And there you go. You see what happened under Butch. But I do think when they brought Mac back, I think they did have to make some concessions here and there in terms of getting guys into school, maybe that always could not have gotten back into school back in the day at Carolina. I think, it was so stringent during the Fedora years, which I covered in terms of academic support, tutoring, that kind of stuff, all the stuff that kind of got them in hot water years ago. They almost went too much the opposite direction of making sure they weren't doing anything, where I think guys nowadays get more of the academic support stuff that they would get anywhere, where UNC maybe was afraid of that for a while. But, it's changed under Mac. I think they're getting kids in there that maybe would have been a challenge, frankly. You can't name names. These are things that are sort of talked about a little bit. There's a difference between things that are talked about and things you can write about in a black and white way. But, I think that's going on. The issue with UNC to me always has been, do they have the amount of, big time boosters who are committed to football? We know that they do in basketball, but do they have that commitment from, some of these folks that are all about it when it comes to basketball? Does that carry over to football? And I'm not sure it does, frankly. I mean, I think that Mac Brown has his old school fans among the big money folks who played a big role in bringing him back. But do they have that depth of booster support? Everyone knows about like T. Boone Pickens at Oklahoma State, and some of these guys around the country. We know about Wendell Murphy at NC State. But who are these big time like football boosters at Carolina? And like, I can't name any. I mean, there's some folks whose names are on buildings over there who helped build the indoor facility and get some of these facilities built in recent years. But do they have that depth of booster support? Just, UNC, obviously it's a great academic institution. There's so much going on there beyond sports. And I think a lot of their big money contributors, frankly, might not care a great deal about sports, and especially college football. And to me, I think that's always been one of the issues and one of the answers to the question of how come they're not better in this one sport. I just think there's not that complete buy-in from the money folks.
I think it is slightly unfair to Carolina to say that they don't care or that they don't have enough money in football.
No, I never said they don't have enough money. They have the money.
But the want to part, there is a reality to football.
Mm-hmm.
There is a supply and demand reality to football. Texas being in the national championship this year, is not by accident. TCU being in the national championship the year before is not by accident. Matt Rule robbing and raping David Tepper of $60 million was not by accident. It's because he was in the state of Texas where there's a ton of talent. Okay? So the state of North Carolina, unlike the state of Texas, unlike the state of Florida, does not team with 1A talent that you can just stockpile your roster with. You bring up Butch Davis. Butch Davis had Willis McGahee, a 2-star from Orlando. Yeah, he was pretty damn good. He was also the 4th-string running back. It wasn't like we went out and got the guy because we thought he was going to be Willis McGahee.
Sure.
You went out and got the guy because, well, that's what you did. When all of the pie gets cut up in the state of North Carolina, as it always does, North Carolina's problem is NC State. North Carolina's problem is App State. North Carolina's problem is ECU. North Carolina's real problem is Notre Dame, Ohio State,
out of the state.
Florida, Clemson, Alabama, whoever comes in here and gets whoever they want, whenever they want. Right? So
I agree with that.
You could sit here and act like, I think, I'm not saying it's you, but it's a little bit of Pollyanna for Carolina to just, and a little bit of hubris. And I would say the same thing for NC State to think, all we have to do is get the right money and the right coach. I don't think so. I look at Texas, I look at Florida, and I would say to you, yes, you can do those things there. I don't think you can do it in North Carolina.
But
unless you did something like Chuck did, and Chuck went into Florida and got players. Mac, the first time,
went into Florida.
Went into Virginia, and that's when
they've tried that, but those guys haven't turned out to be good.
Essentially both programs, NC State and North Carolina,
you got to hit home runs.
End up being
you got to have a pipeline. You got to hit home runs.
So all of this is to set the table for what is happening next. What's funny to me is that I can see a scenario where North Carolina graduates to whatever this tier is, and NC State does not.
I could see that, yeah.
And again, it comes down to the financials of it. But I sit here and I think to myself, well, why would you belong? Other than the fact that you have the money. It's a pay for play at that point. How many actual programs are in the state of North Carolina could viably enter into this tier?
I think it's one.
It's
I do think it's I think that's the answer. I think that's the only answer.
There's this pie in the sky attitude. We talked to Matt Brown about this yesterday, where ECU's got the want to commit everything to football. They don't have to play too. They don't have to play the game. App State's in the same boat. And I want to bounce off something one of our listeners said about App State specifically. App State was sold moving up to, we're going to compete for championships. We're going to try to get at the same level and position ourselves so that when the college football playoff expands, we will be in the mix for possible inclusion in the college football playoff. It's that general attitude that has ultimately ruined college football. There's been a lot of, I don't want to say retconning of this, but a lot of people pointing out that the whole point of college football, Tom Fornelli brought this up, Omani Jones has brought this up, and I ultimately agree because I find myself saying this when NC State and North Carolina play at the end of the week, or when North Carolina plays App State, or if NC State plays App State. College football thrives on that. College football does not thrive on what we're getting with the college football playoff and the endless the endless climb to try to win a championship. Not everybody's on the same footing. Out of the 150 schools, not all of you are going to have a chance to compete.
Like, to put in other words, if you're Mississippi State or you're Ole Miss, you've never ever done anything.
Never done this.
Why is money going to change? Why is a new division going to change? What you're going to do against Alabama?
And Joe, I like the idea that you put out last summer. I think it was about if things fall apart, so to speak, and there's like the Super League. I like the conference with NC State, Virginia Tech, ECU, App. I think Charlotte might have been in it, Coastal Carolina, whatever.
My West Virginia, because they
like that
irate people.
That really local, like that's much more appealing to me in what college football should be than whatever the Super League is going to turn into.
I'm with you on that. And I love the people that are bringing up the idea of, well, if you have these tiers, you can have promotion and relegation.
No, that's not going to work.
Folks, that's never going to happen. People are not spending the money to find themselves suddenly back in the neighborhood they tried to leave. So at some point, people have to remember, why do I care? And I see this every single time. People can act like they don't care, but I know you care because I see the reaction. I see the engagement. There is way more juice when North Carolina plays App State. There's way more juice when ECU and App State play. There's way more juice when NC State and Carolina play than this idea that, well, we got to play this non-conference game because it's going to help us position for this bowl game and yada, yada, yada. Like, let's get away from this stuff and get back to what people ultimately want and actually care about. And that is local.
Well, I was going to say, I think you're being maybe a little bit too provincial, because I do think if we're on Carolina, they started the season against South Carolina. Everybody was excited about that.
Yeah, no, you're right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Everybody was hyped about that.
And that's the thing too. Like, you just want to play other people that care.
Yes.
Like West Virginia, when State went there, it was 19. State was terrible. West Virginia wasn't that good either. But man,
people cared.
That place was packed. Those people were totally engaged with what was going on.
So, for instance, I'll occasionally, and Andrew, you can appreciate this because you're the guy who goes down these rabbit holes, and I will see college basketball arenas or, coliseums or whatever filled to the brim with people. And the games that they're filled for are the games that people actually cared about. It was these conference games. There was a familiarity with this group, not this business that we get today with, grown conferences. It's almost like we want to get back to the land, Joe. Let's get back to the land. Let's do boutique. Let's find our
true though. And how silly that conversation that we had earlier this season about how UNC should never play App State because
that's the dumbest conversation. Dumbest conversation.
That's going to hurt their playoff ranking. And it's like they're not even in the final playoff ranking, and it didn't matter at all. Like it's just completely absurd conversation at the time. And in the moment. I mean, going back to UNC, my question about all this stuff is like, I get that once you're on this hamster wheel, you kind of just have to stay on it, and that their fans and boosters and stuff expect to compete at the highest level, but they haven't won the ACC in 43 years. So you're going to go to some Super League and never win, ever. Like the best hope is probably a 500 overall record year to year. So what's the benefit of that ultimately? I get the financial stuff. You got to have money to support different programs, but you're just going to be losing in this sport forever. Is that the trade-off?
Yeah, I wonder when they create this, as Matt Brown called it, the FBS Plus. Like, I would be pumped to win whatever's left.
Sure.
Like, I've been arguing that G5 should have their own playoff.
Absolutely.
And they act like, no, it wouldn't be. Why? You are literally not competing with Alabama and Texas anyway. And Ohio State. I got news for you. NC State, with their $100 million budget, is not competing with Ohio State and Texas.
Right. So you want to win.
They've doubled you up.
They want to win the game.
You're the freaking A's playing in an empty building. Like, stop acting like you're equals. You're not. You know what? I'd rather be the king of the dipshits. So let me play the other dipshits and be the king of the dipshits.
Put on a shirt.
Yeah.
I'd rather be the king of the dipshits.
I like that, actually. Yeah. What would the trophy be for that?
Just a poop emoji. Just get a golden poop emoji.
I would rather be the king of the dipshits than a pauper.
That's the next OG shirt right there, man. That is.
Honestly, that is that really warms my heart for this podcast.
Out of the ACC, who do you think legitimately would want to jump up, Andrew? Because I've got.
Oh, I mean, we know the obvious ones: FSU, Clemson, Miami, UNC. I think those are the definites.
I got 2 more definites.
I think there's another tier that would want to.
No, you're missing 2 automatics here.
I am.
The bourbon people in Louisville.
Yeah.
I mean, they
Louisville,
were
okay, but to me, that's another one of, can they compete? I mean, yeah, they have more money. I think actually they have the largest budget in the ACC.
Yeah.
And what's that get them?
Well, it got them an appearance in Charlotte.
It depends.
Getting beat by a 3rd-string quarterback this year.
Yeah, man. Good time.
All right. What's the other one? Louisville and who?
The newcomer. SMU. Has already proven.
SMU. I wasn't thinking about SMU.
We don't want
SMU. There's no limit.
Yes. We just want to be there. You don't even have to pay us.
But actually, I think we'll close on this because SMU is a prime example of you can have all the money in the world, but people still don't want you. You can have all the money in the world, and congratulations, you just won the American Athletic.
They're going to be fascinating because
they're going to compete next year when they join.
Yeah. And that's going to be even more of an indictment on the ACC. Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sorry, but it's just I think that without realizing it, Jim Phillips continues to sign the death certificate for the ACC by bringing in a program that nobody has wanted, but can probably come in and legitimately compete in the ACC for football. And what does that make you? What does that make you? So
it's not great for the narrative.
Andrew Carter, News and Observer. Great conversation as always.
NC State SMU championship game next year in Charlotte. Cannot wait.
It would not be in Charlotte. It would actually be at Jerry World.
That sounds like a non-conference game.
No, I think they'll move it. They'll move it to. They couldn't fill Jerry World, so they'll move it to the Star.
There you go.
Where they play the high school championships in Texas.
The other Gerald Ford.
Exactly. All right, Andrew, we'll talk to you later, man.
All right, gentlemen. See ya.
All right, let's get out of here with some Hey Joe questions. Big thanks to Anthony over at Oakwood Pizza Box. Pick some pizza out already?
No, we're getting ready to go over there.
Oh,
yes.
Do you have to take the equipment again?
I do.
Oh, so I need to hurry up.
I gotta get fun.
I got to get out of here then. Although they're not even open yet.
Right.
Does that mean
that's the point?
Are they going to be open when?
He opens at 5 today. Yes.
Okay. I just want to make sure that you're not trying to do a podcast while they're slinging pizza at the same time.
No.
Okay.
No.
Thank goodness.
You got good ambient noise over there.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. All right. Let's get out of here on some Hey Joe questions. Into the YouTube, where the comments have been very, very active as of late. And a lot of it has to do with the college football playoff, Florida State, the ACC, culpability, a lot of response to the Tar Heels. But I wanted to focus on this one from random frequencies. Joe, from the bottom of my heart, as someone who loves the show and listens every day, I don't give a shit about Aaron Rodgers. Can we cut the daily segment from the show? 5 stars, positive vibes. And I said, fine. I will admit that I have a problem.
You have an Aaron Rodgers kink?
I do.
Yeah.
It's because I find the guy somewhat fascinating, and I love seeing how, like, from 8 steps away or 8 steps ahead, what he's going to do next, and seeing if he's actually going to do it. I will admit that is a fascination on my part. So, you're right. I am not going to talk about Aaron Rodgers anymore. There was one comment I saw on Instagram that I need to read from one of our listeners. This is from Demon Deek 89 on the Instagram comments. Which is worse, A-Rod pandering for media attention, or Ovia's bringing it up every week on a Triangle Sports focused podcast? For the sake of your loyal listeners, please stop feeding the beast. Okay. You're right.
I guess you found both of my burner accounts then.
Fair point. From the Iron Man, I predict a player will be listed as day-to-day with an upper body injury next year when it's really a season-ending injury. No incentive to be transparent with the college football playoff direction every week.
Yeah.
Can't disagree with
Again, this has happened before in women's basketball where they intentionally do not disclose an injury in order to protect the seeding. So it's unfortunate. You know how I feel about our gambling overlords, and I wish the college would get on the same page as the NFL, and maybe they might have learned their lesson in baseball last year. Obviously they didn't, but college baseball, but we'll see.
Over to Matt. If the SEC and the Big Ten are inherently better than the ACC, why would they ever schedule an out-of-conference game with the ACC again? Why give the ACC even a chance to improve their strength of schedule? I mean, it depends on who you play, number one, and it also depends on who's creating the narrative. Remember, when the ACC beats the SEC, because remember, the ACC was 6-4.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Kyle Tucker, who works at The Athletic, was like, well, can we be real about the 6-4 record? Can we be real about it? Like who they beat? And yeah, we can be if you want to. Like the ACC had some good wins over the SEC. And the wins that you want to tout for the SEC were over bad ACC teams. So what are we really accomplishing here? So I think my answer here is that the SEC and the Big Ten have every reason to play the ACC because if they win, it's see, we're clearly better than you. If you lose, there's any number of excuses you can use.
I think the biggest change in college football with the playoff era is going to be how schedules are structured. Mark my words.
I'm with you on that. And finally, I saw this yesterday. Apparently, Disney is bringing this story living concept to North Carolina out in Chatham County. I think it's Chatham County that they're bringing it to. Did you watch Succession or no?
Yes, actually, yes.
You remember Living Plus?
I was like, where are we going?
Remember Living Plus, the joke about Living Plus?
Your cockamamie Disney things. Ay.
But you remember,
can I get back on my burner?
Yeah.
So we can never talk about Disney again.
So I want them to advertise.
What was it? What was the guy? What was my burner account?
Random frequencies. Random frequencies.
Dear Joe,
can we not talk about Disney? It's called Hysteria. I think we should move the studio out there. We should move the studio out there, Joe. I'm excited about this.
How did you pull that off? That's so good.
Did we lose you? I think we lost Joe.
That's amazing.
From Andrew. This is a reference you won't get. What exotic locales will be featured in Soarin' over North Carolina? That's right. You haven't been to Disney since you were a teenager, have you?
Oh,
so you have no idea what Soarin' is,
12,
do you? So you have no idea what Soarin' is?
No, dude.
You know what? You know what this is?
No.
This is a segment for our guy Jeremy Markovich over at NC Rabbit Hole. That's what this is.
I love Jeremy.
We can do It's a Small World North Carolina edition and incorporate all the weird places he's been to.
So there's Succession. They want to create a fake living thing.
A fake living community. And they're bringing that to North Carolina. I think this is the second one. It's the second one. So based on your reaction.
Pikmin, yeah.
Pikmin for the Nintendo. Are you okay?
Rogers thing got me.
I think. I honestly think. I think today's show broke you.
That was the Aaron Rodgers. How did I come up with a burner on Instagram?
All right, let's get out of here. Well, enjoy your weekend. Hopefully, Joe is not in the hospital for pulling something because he's been laughing so hard.